Have you ever been trying to solve a problem and you just felt like you were spinning your wheels? Like you were kind of in a car that wasn't going anywhere? You know, the problem might not be your creativity or your ability to generate solutions. The problem might be with your base assumptions. In this video, I'm going to explain what that means and hopefully get myself out of this car. Problem solving is a critical skill. Things will change, things will go wrong, and your ability to solve those problems and adapt to those changes and unexpected events are going to directly relate to how successful you are. Now, at its core, we're talking about creativity, creating ideas to solve your problems. Now, an improv comedy is all about creativity. So when I'm doing improv or when I'm teaching others to do improv, the fundamental thing we do is show people how they can quickly and effectively generate ideas.
Has her own translator. I'm going to begin telling you all a story in my native language, which is English. Sean Lee, whenever she wants, is going to go ahead and hit the translator. When she does, I'm going to have to switch into a foreign language. Now, it's going, so I don't offend anyone or leave anyone out, it's going to be a foreign language that no one knows. A foreign language known as gibberish. Yes, when she hits a translator, I switch to gibberish. When she hits it again, I switch back to English. And you're going to see just how powerful it is as we switch back and forth. Now, to prove that this is not pre-recorded and this is actually the translator doing the work, I'm not going to tell you a pre-written story. I'm going to have you tell me what to tell a story about. So from this side of the room, can I get an activity you like to do on the weekends? What's that? Make love. Make love. Only on the weekends? Okay. And from this side of the room, can I get, what is one of your speaking topics? Something unrelated to making love, ma'am. Customer service, all right. So now we're going to see how the universal translator can translate a story about making love and how that relates to customer service. Are you ready, Sean Lee?
I'm ready.
Here we go. Once upon a time, while I was trying to get great service at a store, I realized that the woman across from the counter was very beautiful. And I said to her, you know what, ma'am, I need to return this even though I don't have a receipt. And she looked at me and she said, you know what, sir, you should blah blah. And I pulled out my wallet. And I said, inside this wallet is something that people jimbo. And she said, oh, Virginia, and I could not believe that she was actually turned on by that line. Now, what was amazing is that I said to her, hey, instead of this, and she said, oh, but yes, I would love to go.
Now here's the thing. Even though improv comedians are very creative, even though I use a lot of creativity, all the creativity in the world actually may be meaningless if you're answering the wrong problem. You see, we all have and we all make what is called base assumptions. We take our condition, we take the problem we're trying to solve, and we make certain assumptions about expectations, about what the situation is. If those assumptions are incorrect, we are just going to be spinning our wheels, kind of like trying to push yourself in a tiny, tiny car. Now, I have direct experience with making an incorrect base assumption, one that actually hurt my problem solving and really had me stumped. This is a little shoe, and it belongs to a little person. It belongs to my son, who's about 16 months old. And one day, I was taking care of him, and we were hanging out in our playroom, which is also our family room as it is with many people, and I decided to take his shoes off so he'd be more comfortable. Well, I took the shoes off, and then I threw them into the middle of the room because I wanted to keep them right in the middle of the room where we'd be able to see them. I didn't want to throw them somewhere we wouldn't find them again later. Well, wouldn't you know it, later on that night, my wife is packing up his stuff in his bag for the next day, she likes to do, and she couldn't find his shoes. So she asks me, where are his shoes? I said, I'm not sure. Now, of course, this was a problem because I was the last person to handle the shoes and I didn't know where they were. So I said, I just threw them in the middle of the room and they weren't there. This, of course, led to us looking all over the place and wondering where on earth have these shoes gone. Well, my wife goes upstairs to finish getting ready, But to me, this is a problem. I'm like, look, I know those shoes were there. Where could they have gone? So of course, my mind assumes that because I threw the shoes, probably what had happened is I threw them harder than I thought, they bounced, and they maybe fell behind a bookshelf or into a toy bin or something. So I started looking all around the playroom working on that assumption. Thinking, okay, I'm doing physics equations in my head, I'm recharting potential trajectories for the shoes, I'm looking all over the place, cannot find them. Well then, later on that night, we had given up, we had said these shoes are gone. Well later on then I'm talking to my wife, and she remembers that earlier that night she had been working with some fabric. She likes to do a lot of crafting and she's great at it. And what she had done is she had laid out the fabric on the floor to work with. And then when she was done, she gathered it up and put it in the closet. All of a sudden, ding, the light bulb went off. The light bulb went off. We said, wait a minute, maybe the shoes got wrapped up in the fabric. So I went down to that closet, looked through the fabric, and sure enough, there was the shoe. Yes, it was my wife's fault, but I'm not saying anything negative because I love her very much, and she is in fact the person working the camera right now and making me look good in post-production. So honey, I love you, you didn't do anything wrong. So here's the deal. That whole problem came down to me making a base assumption and sticking to it. I probably looked for that shoe for 15, 20 minutes in a pretty small place. It had that definition of insanity where I'm like looking in the same places over and over because I stuck with the same base assumption. I was being very creative. I was thinking about different trajectories, where could it go, trying to backtrack. I was generating a lot of creative ideas, but because the initial assumption was wrong, I was spinning my wheels, not getting anywhere. So if you're struggling with a problem, whether it's in business or your personal life, and you can't come up with a solution, take a step back and ask yourself, what are the base assumptions I am making about this problem, about this situation? Can you question them? Even if you are still deep down to your core convinced that those assumptions are correct, just for the sake of a creative exercise, act as if they are not. Act as if something else had happened. Act as if a different assumption is true. And see how that generates new ideas and new solutions and gets you moving past those problems that are blocking you.